like this, you should all be able to hear me now. So that's fun. I'll just hide this window. I've got too many windows open. How is everyone? It's been a very long time and I'm not wearing a bandana thing. So that's cool. Let me just turn this gain up a little. How about if I do, oh no, this one. How about that? That's probably better, isn't it? Let me know if it's too loud. So what I thought I'd do today is we're going to continue using the onion architecture demo that I built in the previous video, which if you give me a moment, I shall get you a link for. If I go like this, and I go, oh dear, wrong. If I go like this, I should have really gotten this link before I started, but hey, these things happen. I did put a bit of prep into this. So, if you'll remember back to last time, it was the time before last when we created the onion architecture application. What I'm going to do is any links that I share here, I'm going to put into, if you're watching live, they'll be in the chat window. So hello everyone in the chat. If you're watching on YouTube, I'll put them in the description somewhere. And if you're watching via a page on my website, they'll be around the video somewhere. So just sort of look around for them. So for those who are watching live, I've pasted a link in the chat to a previous video that I did on the onion architecture, where we built that up, and we're basically going to be using that same repo. And I've built some slides here. They're really mainly for my benefit, but what I'll do is I'll also share these when it's done. So watch out if you're watching live. Then remember to check by the end of the day. I'll send a Twitter or something out. Check on the website, and I'll have a link to where you can view these slides if you really want to. I'll also have on the YouTube video, if it's somewhere in the description, I'm not sure. Anyway, so what we're going to do is today we're going to build a SPA, a single page application. So the first thing you'll need is you will need to go to this URL here when it loads. Again, I'll paste these into the chat for anyone who's watching live, and I'll put them in show notes and around the YouTube video. My web access is running very slow today. Anyway, we're going to be using this this Git repo, where what we did was we built a .NET Core onion architecture. And for those who are not sure, go back and have a watch of the other video that tells you all about the onion architecture. I've made a few changes, just a few tweaks since that video went out, and you'll find them all here. But that's easy enough to do, just in your Git client or in the terminal. I'll show you in the terminal if I bring up terminal. Where'd it go? There it is. So all you would need to do is do git clone, and then you would put in this address, paste that in there, and when you hit return, it will pull down the code. I've already done that because I thought it would take way too long, and I'm manually deleting all of these characters anyway. So we're going to use this code. Again, have a look at the other video when you have a chance to get an idea of how that works. I've also shared this video in this link in the chat. This is the link to the previous video and all of the notes around it. So this is, the single. Oh no, not that one. Well, yeah, we'll use part of this one, the single page app, but we'll also use this one. Oh yeah. Also, if you go to the website whilst I'm streaming, you get this really cool div here that updates as the stream happens. We're actually going to be using building a .NET Core application with the onion architecture. I've already pasted the link into the chat, so if you're watching live, you'll see it there. We're going to have a look through this. This is something that I put out in September, so this is and I was wearing a pretty cool bandana. I think I've got the thing angled at the same. No, it doesn't really matter, does it? There we go. Well, there we go. You can see my t-shirt. Look, it says Seigata Sanshiro, because I'm a bit of a nerd. have a look on the waffling tailors for that. I'll maybe send a link out for that. And what you'll also need to do is you'll need to make sure that you have the .NET Core SPA templates. So that you can get by going to this web page. Whilst that loads, I will paste that in the chat again. Again, all these links will be everywhere. So these are the templates that are available for .NET New. So if you have the .NET Core SDK installed and you go .NET New list, what you'll get is it will list all of the templates you have installed. As you can see, I have a bunch of templates already installed. I should have really wiped my glasses before I started. I already have a bunch of templates installed. And what we're going to do is we're going to make use of the Angular one, which you can't see there. There it is. ASP.NET Core with Angular, right? So that tells you it's a web application, use MVC and single page applications. It has a short name of Angular and it defaults to C#. The other templates underneath that, where you can see it says C# and F#, that means that by default it will use C# unless you tell it to use F#. So this one here, the ASP.NET Core Web API, you can actually build a web API with F#, but the square brackets around the C# means that it will default to C# unless you tell it. Okay, so that's pretty cool. So what you'll need to do is you'll need to make sure you run this command. I've already run it on my machine, but you'll need to run this command, .NET New, and then the switch for install, and then you want to provide it the Microsoft ASP.NET Core SPA templates with an asterisk. The asterisk means anything you find underneath here. Also, by the way, these are some really cool templates, and these are all available at the command line if you install them. You could just do .NET New list, and it will show you them all, and it will insert them into this list. And then you can click through to these to read how to use them. So like the boilerplate one is ASP.NET MVC boilerplate, but with .NET Core, and you get all of these things set up automatically for you. Things like Swagger, which is ace, and it'll tell you all about, that's how Swagger works. It'll list out your API and how it all works, and it will use the XML documentation to figure out what that is. So that's pretty cool. I'm going to write a blog post about that at some point when I get a chance. So these are the resources you're going to need. Again, I'll share these slides at some point after the video has been live, after I've got it up on YouTube or something. So here's the stuff I'm going to use. I'm going to use the terminal or bash or the command line interface, whatever you want to call it. This thing here. If I was on my Linux machine, then I would be using I'm just going to, sorry, my computer's telling me to upgrade to the new version of the operating system. Don't want to do that just yet. So if I was on my Linux machine, I would use bash. This is what this is called anyway, bash there, you can see it there. If I was on a Windows machine, I would use the command line. I'd do Windows and R CMD in the run and hit return. That would bring me up a command line. I'm also going to use Rider and or VS Code. If I need to do two things at once with different projects, then I will have both of them open and I'll flick between them so you can see what's going on. And I'm also going to be using Chrome, only because it's one of the browsers that's installed on my machine and I kind of like it. I could use Safari, as you will have seen. I'm on a Mac, but that's fine. We're only going to be using this to access the application that we're building when we build Chrome, right? So here's the plan. I've been trying to do this a lot recently, sort of figure out what we're going to do. So if you look in the GitHub repository, so if I copy this link address again, and I go give me a new tab and place that in. If you look in the GitHub repository, we've got a web UI project. When it loads, we've got a web project, which is a standard ASP.NET Core MVC. And what we're going to do is we're going to replace this with a single page application. We'll keep the web, but we'll also add a SPA project. And we'll build up from there. We'll add things back to the SPA project, things like this has got identity and things like that, login and stuff. And we'll also separate the API and MVC controllers into what's called feature folders or feature directories. We'll use the services we built last time in our API calls, and if we get time, I am on a time limit today, if we get time, we'll look into using Google for the external auth. So you click a button, it will send you out to Google, you put in your Google username and password, and then it will send a token back to using identity server, send a token back to your web application, and it will log you in with Google. That way, the only thing that the app needs to store is that you are signed in with Google, and this is the ID of the user. You don't have to store a password, a username, anything like that. It's really quite cool. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to set up a spa, right? I've actually already done this, right? Because I've done a fair bit of this already. Oh, now I need to go CD code. Oh. I wish I knew this better. Onion arch. There we go. So if I list these, right? If you did a git clone whilst I was waffling on then, we've been doing this for 19 minutes now. All right, 5 minutes of it was waiting. I just thought I'd throw a starting shortly screen on. So if you do a git clone, you'll notice that there is something different about my setup. I've already got a directory, I don't know whether you can see that too well, called onion.spa. If you're in a small window, make it full screen. If you're watching on YouTube, make it full screen. If you're watching on a phone, good luck. But in the spa directory, if I change directory into that, onion.spa, and we do a list, it is, for when you get around to looking at this, it is just a single page application setup. All I've done is in my Onion Arch folder, I've run this command here, .NET new Angular. So I ran .NET new, you'll see why in a moment, why I've done this beforehand, Angular -- name, and I called it onion.spa. I ran that. The .NET template engine has done its magic and created a project for me, and then I get told run npm install to make sure that I've installed all of the npm packages. Now the reason I didn't do this live is because if I cd into onion, oh bother, gotta go into code and then into onion arch, onion.spa. If I do an ls here, you'll see there's a node modules directory. That's because what I've done is I've actually pulled the node packages already. And the reason I've done that is if I go and then go to home, and then go code, onion arch, and drag this across. So the reason I've done this is if you look at the node modules folder and I do a get info, you'll see that it takes a moment to calculate because it's pretty large. I'm just going to drag this into the middle of the screen. There we go. You'll see it's 160 megabytes, which if I'm streaming up and trying to pull down, something's going to stop. Either it's going to take forever to download all the packages, or the upstream of me doing this video is going to stop. So I thought I'll do this first, get it out of the way, and then we can get on with it. So what you'll need to do, if you're going to follow along, you need to run the .NET new Angular and then give it a name. I've called it onion.spa. And then you need to, if I go back out, so you've run that command here, right? And it's generated onion.spa, right? What you need to do then is, I'm just going to turn the gain on this up a little bit. Does that help? I feel like it helps. It's probably too loud now. So what you need to do now is do npm install, right? And what will happen is Node will step in. Sorry, I'm in the wrong directory. cd onion.spa npm install. You could do the global switch, which is what this will do. You could do you could do the global switch, which is not what this is going to do. You can do the dev switch, which is what this is going to do, or you could do whatever you want. So what's going to happen is I'm going to hit return. It's going to read through the node modules. Which file is it going to read? It's going to read, I believe it's the packages.json, and it's going to look at the things that are required by Node to build this app. It's then going to download them. I already have them downloaded, so when I do this, it's just going to read through it. It's going to go, oh right, you already have these ones, hopefully. Yeah, there it goes. So it's already detected I have all of these installed. And as you can see, oh look, it's removed 3 packages. I have no idea why it did that, but it did that. Let's see if it runs. I don't know. So we're still in the SPA directory. What I'm going to do is I'm going to run this command here, ASP netcore environment development.net run. So what this does, environment equals development. So all the way up to there, it says temporarily set the ASP netcore environment variable to development, and then run the next command with it. So by default, unless you've changed it, the ASP netcore environment will always be production in a directory. You can change it if you want. You can change it in your path variable. I tend to leave it as is because I kind of, when I'm done developing, I want to know what it's going to run like as a production on my machine. So then I'll just do .NET run. So I can do this and then do .NET run. If you don't put ASP netcore environment development run before .NET Core, what will happen is it will run the package, it'll run your entire application in production, and what we won't get is hot module replacement and webpack and all that kind of loveliness that this SPA template will set up for us. That's because on production you don't want to suddenly swap out everything while someone's using the system. In development we have that because then we can just change some of the JavaScript or some of the TypeScript or something, and then what happens is it's instantly rebuilt and sent back to the client, the browser, and then you'll see the changes happen instantly, or as close to instantly as possible, without having to refresh the page, and you'll keep the current state. It's a lot to take in, but there you go. Right, so we'll run this as development, and this will tell us that it's then available. See what this does. Just had a text message, excuse me. So that should eventually, it takes a moment because there's a lot going on. But as you can see, oh that's why. Okay, so that didn't work. And I'll show you why that didn't work. There's a spelling mistake in this word here. I've got ASP netcore underscore envremont. So that's not good. So let's set this correctly. Tell you what, why don't we just copy paste it? That would work better, wouldn't it? So if I get rid of all of this rubbish, that's my laptop binging because I've pushed backspace when, oh no, huh? Oh, I went paste. That's why. What a wally. I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll just run it and make sure I type it correctly. So let's go up one. Where is it? Oh, I'll just type it all back in. ASP netcore environment development.net run. Oh, I've been doing this a long time, and for some reason that font I sometimes can't read properly, but that's fair enough. ASP netcore underscore environment. Okay, so if I run that this time, environment, yeah. Take a sip of my coffee. It'll take a moment. Whilst it's doing that, I'll take some meds. Yeah. Okay, so as you can see, the big difference is that we're running in development, right? It started the node services and it's done a webpack build for us. So it's done a webpack stuff. So if I go to localhost, I can't spell sometimes. So you can see that we've already started firing. We've got controller actions firing. We've got index happening. We've got all of this kind of stuff. We've got JavaScript being injected. Got all this kind of groovy stuff, right? I can do some stuff. This is the standard template. So this is, I haven't built anything for this. This is pretty cool. This is doing it itself. If I click again, we can see apparently minus 11 degrees is sweltering. Not sure that's right, but anyway. So we've got a counter, we can increment that. That's brilliant, brilliant. So that's working. So that's what I always like to do. If I'm running something, if I've changed something, I like to just run it first just to make sure it works. Okay, so I danced today. Can I increase the terminal font? Yes, good point. I am slouching forward, and that's not good for my back. So let's see if I can make this terminal bigger. Or let's have a look. I'm sure I know how to do this. Profile. Aha. So text change. Right. So we'll go from 11 to I think 16 should do it. If it's going to let me do it. It's not going to let me do it. Oh, that's no good. Why doesn't it let me do it? Window. Yep. Okay. Shell. That's fine. Why didn't it let me change that? Oh, what does that look like? 12, 12. These might be better. That's 12. We'll try. Ooh, yeah. I'll do that. Do I need to double click to apply it? Oh, look at that. That's so much better. Is that better? Is that a little better? I feel like that's a little better. Oh, I've loaded that there. It's loaded on the other screen. That's why I couldn't see it. No, that's too big. 15. That's better, isn't it? Yeah. That's easier to see, and I really like that. So, where were we? CD code. Onion arch. Oops. Onion.spar. Look at that dark theme. Lovely. The font's breaking. Is it? Oh. Oh dear. Is that not any good? So I've had a question in the chat. Could I increase the terminal font? And I did a little. Let's see what other. I should have really done this beforehand, but let's have a look. Can you not preview them? That's a bit naff. I'll leave it on this one. And we'll change. What we'll do is we'll change this. How about I drag this in here? Put that up to 14, and I choose. Let's have a look. Is there a consoles? No. I'll leave it on that one. How about that? Is that better? Looks worse than the one before. That's not good. Okay, so we'll go back to basic. We'll leave it on that, but we'll say, how about we go, oh, this is going to be no good, but let's go with 18. Where'd it go? There we go. How's that? I feel like that's really silly, but let's just do that anyway. I bet that's a lot easier to read, isn't it? How's that? CD code, onion arch, onion.spar. Yeah, there we go. Right, okay, so the commands that I ran, so we could see them again. So we did .NET New Angular. So I did, if I go back, I would have done .NET New Angular, oops, -- name, and then I would have done onion.spar. Yep, that's what. No, so I've had a comment in the chat from Dance to Die. Thanks for making the text bigger. Not a problem. So we'll increase that size. So that's the command I would have run, and then I would have had to have gone into onion.spar and run npm install, which installs the all of the things for dev. It installs all the lovely stuff. So it's going to do its thing. It's going to find some packages. It's not going to install anything. It's removed another 3 packages. Interesting. Anyway, excuse me. And then we need to do ASP.NET Core _ environment development .NET run. No, not ton. .NET run. This will take a moment and it will. So I'm just running through the whole thing again, just so you can see it in a bigger font. I'll need to remember to do that with a rider, but that's not a problem. What I'll do is I'll move my phone because that keeps going up. Oh, I've got a subscriber on YouTube, so thank you very much. Okay, so we've got, as we can see, hopefully that's a little bit bigger. We've got development, that's our hosting environment. We're now listening on localhost 5000. Node services is fired, and we've built Webpack again. So just to show that off again. Oh, bother. Oh, no, that one. Excuse me. So we've gone to localhost. We can see all the wonderful, let me move that across here. So you can see that, so that my ugly mug isn't getting in the way. You can see all the things that are happening. We've got model states valid. We've got the index is fired. We've fired the home controller. We've managed to get the JavaScript running. Webpack has happened. You know, these kinds of things. And then as we click around, what's going to happen is we shouldn't have any more controller actions happening here. Shouldn't have any more controller actions happening here. In a standard ASP.NET Core app, as you click around for your controllers, you'll see messages appear here. So I'll keep doing this just for a moment so you can see that nothing's happening. It's all happening on the client side. If I cancel that out, just to show you, so if I go cd, whoops, and go back a folder, and then I do, cd onion.web. So we'll go into there and we'll fire that one up. Where are we? Run that as development. It doesn't really matter. So this is, I'm just going to show you the difference between running interesting. Project file services was not found. That's probably going to cause us an error as we run, but I'll fix that in a moment. So this is just to show you the difference between clicking around on a SPA and clicking around on a standard ASP.NET Core application, and what happens in the console, in the terminal. You'll see that as I click around and I click to different controllers and different actions are fired, we'll get different messages show up. If this is going to do it, warning the project file. I wonder why that's not showing up. Let's run. I'll need to open it. So whilst that's doing its thing, common targets does not exist. That's probably going to error out very quickly. So let's open this with Rider. Let Rider do its thing. So that's now running. Localhost 5000. So as you can see, we're in development mode. All of these actions are going to start firing. Model state's valid. We're going to get some information back. I think perhaps because I've just started Rider at the same time, my CPU performance is going to go through the floor. Whilst this is doing it, is the microphone loud enough? Is it too loud? I don't know, let me know. Anyway, so this is fired. So as you can see, right, the only things that this has by default, that it has controllers for, are these buttons and these buttons. As I click them, you'll see messages appear in this window. I keep pointing and realizing you can't see where I'm pointing, so I'll use the mouse pointer. So you'll see messages appear underneath here as I start clicking around. The messages that you didn't see in the single page application. So let's click about, and you'll see, look, the about could, so it did a get on about, it found an action, it found a model state that was valid, it found the view, and then it sent it out to the browser. Request finished, 9,000 milliseconds, 200 text, brilliant. I click contact, same thing's going to happen. It took the path contact, it found a controller, it found that the model was valid, and it found the view, and it sent that back to us, and it took 700 milliseconds. That's not too bad. So that's the difference between a SPA and a non-SPA, I guess. You can see the messages in the console, which is really quite useful. It's going to move this. Hopefully that didn't make too much noise. That was the microphone I was moving. Oh, good. Thanks, Naughty Man. Naughty Man's just said the sound level is okay. Yes. So we've got that. So we've got the SPA template. So we're going to start messing with that now. So I'm going to close this, and I'm going to close this. I'm going to keep that open. I'm going to bring Rider across. First thing we're going to do is we need to look at that. First thing I need to do really is change the text size. Let's see if I can remember how to do this. Override, set it to 18. Save that. Yes. There we go, that's a little better. I mean, it looks silly on my screen, but as long as you all can see it, that's what matters. So if I go like this, so when we first ran this, it said that the project didn't exist. So let's see if we can fix that. Hopefully, the sound of my laptop getting hot it's not done that. Hopefully the sound of my laptop getting hot isn't going to sit and override the sound of the let's do font in there. Override the sound of font. Here we go. 12 fallback. Now how did I? Let's do that. There we go, that's better, isn't it? Now you can see what's going on. So it's saying it couldn't find onion.service. Ah, that's why this one doesn't exist. Look, it's called onion.service. And we're looking for onion.services. So let's stop that. Save that. That's cool. Yeah, this is trying to pull down things from... Can I cancel that? Because that's just going to get in the way. Oh well. What's this? Oh, this is, yeah, we'll disable the solution-wide analysis. That'll speed this up. So solution-wide analysis is a really cool thing that ReSharper does. ReSharper and Rider. So Rider has ReSharper built in, and it will do everything. So Rider will do everything that ReSharper can do, which is one of the reasons I really like it. But there we go. So that's fixed that. That's not going to complain at us now. So what was the next thing on the plan? Let's have a look. See, this is a good thing. This is why I wrote it all down. Okay, right. So feature directories. So if you have a look in here in the onion.web, right, we'll use this as a perfect example. Right. If I want to add a new view that is under a different route, so if I wanted to have, is this still running? No, I stopped it. So let's just run that again. This is going to take some time. So all of the routes exist within a path, and the path by default has controller and then action and then any arguments. Let me do that again because that's the right way around for me, but not for you. So it has controller name / action name and then any kind of query string arguments, right? So you can see that if we go to the startup.cs and we find, where are we? Add MVC. So, here we go. So the standard route is the controller name with the default of home, the action name, which has a default of index if you don't supply it, and any kind of arguments after that. So this might be IDs, it might be string values, that kind of thing, right? If I want to add a new path, like a controller name and a view, what I have to do is I have to go to the controllers and I have to say, right, okay, let's go to home controller and we'll just shove it in the end of here. So if I collapse that and I go public class my controller $controller, I'll just give this a better, there we go. And then I can go, where are we? Public action result. Oh bother. Action result index, and then I can do return view. Yeah, return view. Now, first thing this is going to do is going to say, brilliant, you've got this new controller, so we can send requests to localhost / my controller / index. Problem is that the view doesn't exist, right? So if I wanted to, I've got to then go and create the view as well. So I'm going to create a view. This is wonderful, by the way. We'll create it without a partial, without a layout, without anything like that. We're going to get no for now. So we've now got, right? So that's brilliant. We've got a view. We've got a controller. What about if we want to pass some data to it? Well, we need to create a model. Okay, so if you notice, we've created, if I go here and I separate this out, so we've created a separate file called my controller. Nope. A separate file called my controller. You can see that here. In the views, you've got, he's called it my, but that's fine. I'll maybe have to rename that to get the routing to work. No, because it takes out the word controller. Okay, fair enough. So that's fine. So it's going to find this index based on the root coming from controller. And then if we want to pass some data to it, we also need to go models, add a new folder. Where are we? Add a new directory. Call it my view models. I shouldn't have called it my controller, but there you go. And then we're going to create a new class in here. So you can see we're having to move between directories to add stuff. So what I'm going to show you is a way to not have to do that. There's no right or wrong way. The pattern that we use here for models, views and controllers is brilliant, and it's used in a whole bunch of stuff. I'm going to use feature folders. You don't have to do this. I like to do this because it sort of simplifies things, and you'll see why in a moment. So if I just get rid of my new controller and my new view, just get rid of that, we'll delete that, we'll delete this directory. Right. What we would do with feature folders is we would create a new directory called features. I call them features, you can call them whatever you want. So we've got features, and then within the features directory, what we do is we create a directory, new directory, we'll call this home, and then we go home controller, we go, I delete that directory while I'm there. So then we create the home, that home directory, we grab the home controller, we grab the home view, whoops, pushed the wrong button there, grab the home controller, I think it's that one, grab the home view, yep, and drag them into there, yep. Then we grab the shared and the view start stuff, all of this, drag that into the features directory, and that's fine. I'll move some stuff. I've moved some of the wrong stuff here. So that needs to come out. All of this needs to go to there. I'll fix this in a moment. Just bear with me whilst I clean it up. So the idea here is if you ignore controllers and views and models directories for now, I've intentionally picked a page without any models. What you end up with is a directory called features, and within that you'll have a home directory, manage directory, what else do we have, like about directory, that kind of thing. And what were they? Home, manage, home, account and manage. So you'll end up with a home directory which just has the controller and the views related to it. And then you'll have, if I create a new, I won't create a new directory, I'll just drag these in, where are we, from the views. Account goes into here, that's fine. And then you would end up with the account controller in there, that's fine. And what you'd also have is you'd have the account view models in there as well, that's fine. You'd have the error view models in here. So as you can see, even just with two of them, it's quickly becoming a lot simpler. Oh, hello, so my brother's watching, that's ace. Hello. So what you'll end up with is you'll end up with this features directory which has all of the things required to actually get things running. I'll just collapse all of these. I'll fix the namespaces in a moment. I should have really done that first, but that's fine. So we'll put all of these in here, and we'll put manage controllers in there. And as you can see, instantly I'll go through and delete these other folders because we don't need them now. If I do delete, you can see first off the solution is smaller. Secondly, if I want to add a new controller, I go into, oh, I've put that in the wrong place, manage controller. You go into features, and then you create a directory and have everything within there. So you have in the home directory, you've got your controller, you've got all of the views for that controller. You've then got in the accounts directory, you've got the accounts controller, where are we, accounts controller, there it is. You've got all the files related to it, and the view models, which is ace. You know, all of this sort of, it contains it quite clearly, which is brilliant. But the problem is you can't just do that and expect it to work. So why don't I adjust all namespaces in this project, and it should go through and fix all my namespaces for me. Resharper is ace. Let's take a sip of this. So what I'm doing here is I'm making it a lot simpler. And I chose features only because it was used in a talk by K. Scott Allen. I've written about feature directories before on the blog. So if I'll see if I can find the page whilst this is doing the if I can find the page whilst that's doing the feature folder. There we go. It was when I did to create the custom template. So if I paste this, if I copy and then paste this over here. Again, I'll put the links to stuff in the show notes and all that kind of stuff. Ah, yes. Okay. So yes, Dance Today raised a very interesting question. It is so the routing within ASP.NET MVC is convention based. So it is based on that I showed you earlier on, the route, the default route that was set up. Controller equals home, action equals index. I'll show you that again now that it's finished. Where are we? In here, startup. So it is based on this lovely convention here, where I have just broken that, because I've said you're going to go to that controller. The controller is going to be here. The action is going to be there. It's going to all broken, right? And we need to make a change to make that work. There are packages which will do this, but A, they're out of date. They're all for ASP.NET Core 1, and B, it's real simple to do it yourself. And like I say, I've already written about it. Oh look, there I am. So if I scroll down to here, there's this wonderful talk here by K. Scott Allen of Ode to Code. I'll get the link for that video, copy a link address, and I'll put that in the chat here for anyone who wants to watch it either now or later. I'll put that link in the show notes and stuff. So if you're watching on YouTube, they'll be down here. If you're watching via the website, they'll be around somewhere, maybe at the bottom, I'm not sure. And there's this brilliant idea of feature directories, feature folders. So I've written up about it. There's already a discussion here on this page for an article that I published in October. Again, I'll put the link here. I can put the link in the show notes, that kind of thing, where I talk about the feature directories, feature folders, and how it's all supposed to work. I'm also using this as a way of checking that I've done it right, and I have. So that's easy enough to do. And the way you do that is, I'm not going to refer to my own blog post for this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do this in here. So we need to do a service collection. So I'm going to steal some code. Really good point, Dance Today. If you did watch that video now, you'd lose the live version of this, but that's fine. You watch it whenever. It's a really cool talk, actually. That's a really cool talk that K. Scott Allen did at .NET, one of the .NET conferences earlier this year. It's all .NET 1.x based, but most of it is pretty much the same. So like grouping. So like if you look at my startup class, I've already started doing things like grouping things together into extension methods. So if I go to the declaration here, so instead of having these two in line in the startup class, I've added them in this directory, in this method. Sorry, it's easier to add to this method, and it makes this a little bit like the sort of newspaper pattern where you can see, oh, we're going to go add the DB context, we're going to add the repository, we're going to add the transient services, we're going to add MVC. It makes it easy. You can read it at a higher level. If you want to, you can dive in. And then if I want to add more services, that one method gets longer, not this one. So it makes it easier for us to read. And as per Steve McConnell, so Steve McConnell in Code Complete 2 says that we write code for humans to read, not for computers to read. The compilers are that smart now that we can type in pretty much really bad code and it will optimize it for us and try to guess what we want. But the important bit is that another developer looking at this code knows what I meant to do. And by removing these things away and putting them in one place, it makes it easier for a higher level. Oh, all right, like I said, we've added the DB context, we've added the repository, we've added the transient services, we're adding MVC. So I've already started doing this. So that's in here, my configure stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm literally just going to steal this code and I'll talk through it as I put this in here. So I always like to do my public methods and my private methods. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add this using statement here. Which using statement are we missing? MVC Razor perhaps? Yeah, we are. So I need to add that here. Using Microsoft ASP.NET Core Razor. Is it just Razor? Yeah. That's going to tell me I'm not using it now, isn't it? Razor engine options. There we go, Razor engine options. Okay, so what this is going to do, let me just get rid of that because I didn't do the MVC. So this is instantly going to break anyway. So what happens here is we can call services.add feature folders. What this is going to do, this is going to do everything that a NuGet package would, but in about 4 or 5 lines of code. So we're saying in the Razor engine options, whoops, view location expanders and add our feature location expander. We haven't added this class yet, but we will in a moment because that all exists here. I like that I've got this on hand actually, because this is, again, this is in the full stack template. So this is the Git repo that I built for the link I just sent for creating a custom template. So this is all in that custom template stuff. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this code. This is all MIT licensed, so if you guys want to rip this off, you can. I've clicked raw and it's going to take a long time to load. There we go. So if I go, like, let's just create the class. Let it create the class for me. Create that type. There we go. Public class. Ah, no, actually. Yeah, you see, it knows what I want to do. So let's load this back up again. We'll create one in here, a new class. There we go. Feature location expander. You'll see why what this does in a moment. So nope, and we'll paste that in there. So what this is going to do, ignore these first 3 lines first, because this is resharper stuff. So ignore that one for now. Right? Ah, yes, that's what that is. You see, JetBrains not annotations. We'll add that package in a moment. So this is in the wrong namespace because I've copied it. So let's just put it in the right namespace. There we go. Which means that this should now work. Yeah. So what we're going to do is when we call services.add feature folders, you can see here in the comments, we're going to add the feature location expander stuff to the view location expanders. So the feature location expander, it extends the view location expander. We don't need this. We don't need to write any code for this one. You can if you want. I haven't had to, but you do need it there because it's required, because this view location expander requires that method because it's an interface. So we've created it and left it blank. That's fine. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do this. I'm going to save that. So this is a method called expand view locations. It takes context and it takes the view locations. That's fine. The old view locations are what's stored here. That's passed in automatically. What we're going to do is we're going to take the old ones and just ignore them and replace them with these ones. So this will tell the Razor engine, go to features / controller / action to find the right thing. So that's what these are for. So when we add the API, that will be this area. Otherwise, go here for the normal stuff for like home index, or go here for anything that's in shared. So like for the view start and the layout and stuff. And then this is literally so that we can help resharper and Rider figure out what's going on. So like if I go to, without adding this, if I go to a controller and hover over the view, it's going to say I don't know where that is. So let's just quickly do that. So if I go to my features, home controller, and I hover here, it doesn't know where index is, because what Rider is doing is what resharper would do, is it would go, oh right, so I'll look for a folder in the views directory called home, and then look for an index.cshtml. But that's no good because that's not where we want them anymore. So that's what this is going to be for. But to be able to do that, oh dear, it's hidden my, does it? Okay. So to be able to do this, we need to add the JetBrains annotations package. So what we're going to do is we are going to steal that from the CS project from here, because I can't remember what it's called. I should have written this down, but this is what open source software is for, isn't it? So you can, there we go. So you can just sort of creatively borrow things. So if I go like this and I go edit onion.doodah, we've got package references. So I like to separate my package references out. You don't have to if you don't want to. Oh dear, I've copied that. So this is things that we're going to use in the as using statements, and some of these are the CLI tools. So these are the packages we're going to pull in. That's the CLI tools. That's the these three are the ones internal to the solution. So I just keep them separate just because it's easier for me to manage if they're separate. If they were all lumped together in one item group, it would get confusing for me, but that's just me. So as you can see, we're going to restore this package, which means the stream is going to be affected, but that's not a problem. Apparently I just hit a very high speed, but with a red flag. I don't know. OBS is telling me it was a red flag. Whatever. So this is going to restore our packages, and it's going to resynchronize everything. As you can see, it's synchronizing projects as well. So if I go into here, I then need to re-add that using statement. So using JetBrains.annotations. That should now make this work. Well, it will once it's restored the packages properly, but that's fine. So all we need to do now is take this. So I usually, when I'm adding something, the way I do it there is how I would add a new class to any kind of project. Is I add an entry point, and then I add the final step and work backwards and sort of glue them together. So we added the entry point of add feature folders as an extension method. Then we did all the business end of making it work. And now I'm going to make this call from here. That's just how I do it. Anyone can do this any way they want, and you don't even have to do this. So because this is in this startup, so this is add customized MVC, so that's after here. Okay, so because everything in configure services and in configure sets up a pipeline, you need to make sure that they're added in the correct order. So because I've added the DB context, that will be added and used first, then the repository is added, and then the transient services are added, and then the MVC is added. After MVC, I want to call add feature folders. If I'd have done that earlier, it would affect the way that the request is dealt with. And I've written a blog post about the request and all that kind of stuff, and the order in which requests are dealt with before. S equals, what do I need to search for? Middleware. Yes, when I first wrote my middleware, so I'm searching in another screen here, just to make it easier for me to find it. When I created my OWASP middleware, and I wrote about it, I wrote a little bit about how middleware works. So that's here. Again, I'll put all of these links in show notes and on pages and all that kind of stuff. So I'll dump this link in the chat. If you want to read that, you can. It's got a really bad set of diagrams by me about how the pipeline works. So this is your request coming in. It hits this first middleware, hits the second middleware, hits the third middleware. It's a bit like how what were they called? Oh, so these are the HTTP modules in classic ASP.NET. And what happens with yes, so this is ASP.NET Core and how this all works. Is there a better image? There we go. So this is how ASP.NET Core works. So your request comes in, you hit if you're in development, hit the developer exceptions page. If there's an exception, it gets raised there. It hits routing. If something needs to happen, like you've entered a path to a route, then that will generate a response. If that doesn't need to generate a response, it passes it on to the welcome page one. There is a welcome page service you can add here, so you can add .welcome page in there if you want. So we get to, in this instance, we get to the welcome page. The welcome page generates the response and sends it back through the pipeline in the opposite direction it came. So if I did a request for /home/controller, /home/about, that would be picked up in the MVC routing middleware, and the request would be dealt with here. We'd create a response and we'd pass back through the pipeline, if that makes sense. I feel like I'm sort of waffling towards a point, but hopefully that makes sense. So so the idea is that if we don't match on an MVC route, we just return the welcome page. Or if we're in development and an exception happens at any point along this pipeline, because we're going back the same way, we can raise an exception there and deal with it here, which is pretty cool. And as you can see here, so this is if you do a request on an MVC route. So I mean, I think I ended up using Google Draw to make these because I'm pretty bad at drawing stuff. So yes, so this is how the order affects stuff. Again, I'll put the link in there. But if you swap the MVC routing and welcome page ones around, regardless of what your request URL is, it's always going to be handled by the welcome page, because that's what it does. Welcome page is a piece of middleware that just returns a page. You hit that middleware and it just returns a page. That's all it does. It doesn't do routing, which is what MVC does. It doesn't do stuff that, say, my middleware does, like my OWASP one, which injects headers into the response. It doesn't do what the CLACS one does, which is one of mine, which injects more headers. What this does is it literally just returns a response. So, so if the order in which you add the middleware to a page will reflect the order in which it will affect the response that's generated. Sorry, I am moving towards a point. So we'll add this here, the feature folders, right? So if I rerun this, so I need to stop it and start it again. So this is the web application. Ooh, excuse me. If I rerun this, we're going to end up going through the features directory to find the routes. So long as everything I did worked. We'll find out. Ooh. Excuse me. But yes, so if I go here, I wonder whether that shows up now. Go to declaration. Excuse me. No? Oh, bother. I just ended up opening, there we go. So I ended up opening the something else on my screen there. There we go. Ah, yes. Okay, so because the package restore worked, this is now showing up. So literally, these are for Rider and ReSharper. So if you're using ReSharper or Rider, you'll need to add these 3 lines and the package that's required for them. Is this running? Yeah, it's running. Whereas if you're running in Visual Studio and you don't have ReSharper, or if you're running in Visual Studio Code and you don't have ReSharper, you don't need these 3 lines. But I like to add them because you never know what people are going to be using. But this just literally says, hey, you can see there in that brackets at the beginning of the line. I would point, but you can't see, so I can do this, right? Constructor, JetBrains, blah, 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 blah. It's something that steps in. Oh, brilliant. Let's have a look at this. So Dance to Die has just linked me for something. If you're coming from a Node background, it seems like Express middleware might give you a connection to an ASP.NET MVC pipeline. Brilliant. Thank you very much. Let's have a look at this. I'll keep that on the back. What I'll do is that's in the chat, so I'll put this in the show notes as well. This is really cool. Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. So this is how this is how the Express package for Node does it. Okay, that's cool. Thanks, Dance to Die. That'll help me to understand how Express works. Brilliant. Use user ID function request. Cool. Ace. Yeah, I'll put this link. So I mean, you can see that anyway. I'll put this link in the show notes if you're on YouTube, or the show notes if you're watching on the website. So that's pretty cool. Thanks for that, Dance to Die. Right. So is this working? Application started. Right. So if I go localhost, model state is valid. So this is still going to work, and it's still going to show me the exact same page, except you can see here, right? If I go back up to the top here, right? So request starting that. So it's found the controller action invoker. It's fired the controller action invoker, which found onion.web.features.home controller. So it's looking in the features directory, right? It found the view in features home index, and it found It's going to invoke the controller action. It found the controller to run. It's running that. It's returning this stuff. So as you can see, it's starting to work. So if I go about, it does exactly the same thing. So here we go. We had a request come in to /home/about. The action invoker steps in. It uses this code here to try and figure out where it is. So this here is a list of helpers. Helper is probably the wrong word if you're from a C# or even a programming background, but it's a list of hints where to go to find these views. So I've said try and look in API, try and look in features, try and look in features shared. Yeah. And what it does is it uses these hints to try and find the controller. So as you can see, Onion Web's features home controller about, and then it features home about. And we can do the exact same thing for if I go to login, which uses the account. Email service. Okay, that's fine. So we'll ignore that for now. Account controller, emails, service, email sender. So one of my services doesn't work, but that's fine. We'll ignore that. Can I do register? No. Okay, that's not a huge problem because we're not really worried about that. That's one. So what this is the developer exception page. If I was running in production, I wouldn't get that. I wouldn't get all of this wonderful information. But all this is saying is that we can't find Onion Web Services email sender. So that means that one of my services isn't being injected properly, but we don't have to worry about that because we're not going to look at that. So we don't have to worry about that just yet. Okay, so what's next on the list? So that's, we've added feature folders now. So if I wanted to add a new thing, if I wanted to add a feature called foo, where are we? We'll add a directory, foo. I've called that do because I spelt it wrong because I'm a bit of a wally. Call that foo. We'll create a class called foo controller. Foo controller. Nope. Extends controller. Public action result. Whoops. Result. Action result. Index. Whoops. Index. Oh bother. I can't type, honest. Return view. Right. This is where I've not done this bit before, so we'll find out what happens, right? So it's saying I can't find the view. I can't find the view. So why don't we generate one? Let's generate a view. Where's it put it? Where's it put it? Where's it put it? Where did it put it? Index.cshtml. Oh, it's put it in the API, look. Oh well, that's not a problem. We'll just drag that into foo. Yes, we'll move that file. That's a bit, I think that might be a bit of, so when I know why that's happened. So that's happened because this is the first place it looks. So ReSharper looked at the first possible place to dump it and went, oh, put it in the API directory. It's not a huge problem. Just means that I need to be, either I can swap those around or I need to be on top of when I add stuff. So I can add public action result bar, whoops, then I can go return view. That will say it doesn't have one, and I'll create one real quick. Create one with with the layout. I'll dump it in API again, and I don't know that. Drag that into here. Okay. Cancel. I don't want to move the folder. Right. Okay. So in here, I can go. I'm pushing the wrong button here. What is my? Let's just grab this. View data title homepage. Okay, fair enough. Let's just go h1 hello from foo controller. Oops. This is literally just to show you how it works. And then bar, I can go. I'll probably need that actually. Let's take this and put this up here. So for those of you who haven't done Razor stuff before, I can go foo there. That tells me go find the file called _layout, and then once you've found that, inject the rest of whatever's in this file into the render body section. So if I just really quickly go to, this is kind of standard MVC stuff, but I thought I'll show you. So this is all of the stuff related to the page. and then you'll see this render body. What we do is any of the partials or any pages that we find that match our controller action get dumped into that part. That's standard MVC, just for anyone who hasn't done MVC before. So we'll take that, hello from bar method, save that, and then we'll quickly just cancel and rerun that. So this should allow me to go to localhost /foo, and it'll say hello from foo, and then /bar, so /foo/bar, and it'll say hello from bar. Just to show you that it's easy to quickly add stuff. And like I say, I've not had to go find the controllers directory, find the models directory, find the views directory, and literally just dumping it all there. Just deleting this API method. Literally, I just dump it all into this folder. I can create subfolders if I want, so I can do foo, and then if I really wanted to be really explicit about it, I could say foo.bar for the view, so I could create a directory that would have all of the partials and all that kind of stuff. But this seems to work pretty well for me because it's kind of grouping everything together. Is this working? Yep. So I can go, if I go /foo, we'll get hello from foo. Needs to spin up a second. There we go. Yep, hello from foo. I can go /bar, hello from bar. And that's because it's found the paths that match these ones. So that's pretty cool. So that's feature folders in a nutshell. And it's real simple. I realize I've talked about it for about 20 minutes, half an hour. You can do that. You can talk about that in less than 5 minutes. But I thought I'd sort of show you how it all works and how it all fits together and how to do it. So that's how to take that MVC convention and change it slightly. You could call that features directory, anything you want. You could call that controllers MVC, or you could call it Jeff, or you could call it T-shirt. I don't care. Whatever you wanted to call it, you could rename it, and then you would just have to change these strings and then those strings. And it helps to keep your API separate. So what I'm about to say is opinion based. And there is no right or wrong answer. This might not be the right answer for your project. For me, it's the right answer. It makes sense for me because it makes everything simpler to find. I don't have to go, oh, it's the models, and then in the models controller, I've got view models for the view. Within that, I've got this particular view model. No, it's all just dumped here. You can see in the manage, I've got all of the partials and stuff that are related to things. I could separate these out and have a folder for partials. I could separate this out for two-factor authentication if I wanted. And I've got a directory for the view models. I could rename that to view models. Okay. If I renamed that file, it's probably not the right one to do it on because that's not going to work, is it? What else have we got? Account foo. So if I could create a directory. Yeah, I'll just rename it. It's not a problem. You're not going to see it work because the managed stuff doesn't work, does it? But I could rename that to view models, and then everything within there could have its namespace changed. And so long as in this project, so long as the namespaces match, it will work. So we've got the manage feature. It's got its view models, and if we wanted to, we could have a separate directory for controllers and views if we want. But at that point, it's going a little bit further back towards that MVC thing, the MVC convention. It's not a problem. It works. So what I was about to say was that you'll sometimes find, I found a few ASP.NET Core applications which do this, and for me, it's a bit, my opinion, it's a bit over the top. So you'll have your controllers directory. So they'll have, oh, I need to rename that. It's controllers. So they'll have, I could rename, there we go. So they'll have a controllers directory. Within that, they'll have a bunch of controllers. So they might have, I'll just try and do this real quick. Jeff controller. Nope. Inherits from controller. So it's going to complain. They'll import that. And then they'll also have public class biff controller. Inherits from controller. And they might also have public class Wendy controller. I don't know. I'm just making up words here. Controller. I'm just making up words here. These are, you know, you could call these whatever. You could call them foo controller, bar controller. The only reason I haven't called them foo and bar is because I already have foo and bar existing. This directory is going to be ditched in a moment anyway. Oh dear. No, that's fine. Okay, so we've moved that out to a file. So what they'll have is they'll have a bunch of controllers, and then within the controllers directory, I don't like this myself, but I'm not an authority. They'll have a separate file, a separate directory for their API controllers. So this will be is that the right? Nope. Okay. Web API controller. Oh no, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. In ASP.NET, controller and API controller are two separate things. In .NET Core, they're exactly the same. So let's add this. So then they'll also have a public class. So they would also have that, and they might have a public class series API controller. No bother, I misspelled controller there. Controller. There we go. So what you would find, move that to there, and we'll say no, we don't want to add that. So that confirmation I keep getting and dismissing is, do you want to add this to source control? I don't want to at the moment, because all of this is just me playing around with it. So the thing I'm trying to show you is that in a lot of ASP.NET Core projects I've found and been looking at and reading, the best way to learn stuff about a new framework or technology is to read how other people are using it, and then hopefully they'll have a lot of comments about how they're doing stuff. That's how one of the ways that I learn how to do feature folders. In the talk by K. Scott Allen, he talks about, hey, I have this NuGet package that will do it all for you. And I thought, well, that's fine, but how do I know how it works if I just install a NuGet package? Anyway, so yeah, you'll find a lot of, I've found a lot of projects and systems out there that have a controllers, then API controllers, and you call and that's how they separate them. But the root will still be, so they'll still have a root attribute, and it will be slash API slash book. I need to put a proper quotes at the front there. You know, so they'll do that, and that's fine. But they've separated it all out. Are there any? So dance to die. I'm just going to have a quick look in here. Middleware NuGet started automatically. Enable features. So install NuGet package. Let me writing up to the pipeline. Yeah. So dance to die just asked in the chat, are there any packages that will do this? And sure, there are. In K. Scott Allen's talk, he talks about a NuGet package that he has that will do this, and there are a few others. You just search on NuGet for feature directories. So let's have a quick look on there. NuGet feature folders, and there are loads. Because it's really simple. You see, even Steve Smith, R. Dallas, has one. So this is K. Scott Allen's, and that's R. Dallas, Steve Smith, and then there's loads of and because I know the name, but, you know, and there's loads. But the problem is that you'll find that, you know, like Steve Smith's, he hasn't had a chance to update it. It was 6 months ago, so that might only work with .NET Core 1. There might be things. It might just work with .NET Core 2. It may do, but there might be things that need to be updated. I don't know. I haven't had a look. But usually, what you'll find is, like with this one, I feel bad because I'm picking on this one now, but this one hasn't been updated for. It's had 116 downloads, so it's been used. That's pretty cool. But it hasn't. Where was the last updated 6 months ago? But let's have a look at the code. You see, because there's nothing stopping you from reading through it. and this will show you how to. So there's a folder for working with Razor pages. There's a folder for core stuff. You know, it's brilliant. You can just read through how they work. If I go back one and then back again, so the Ode to Code one, this is K. Scott Allen. And you can read his, and his was, it last updated a few days ago, as of the recording of this video. So this recording is going out on Sunday the 26th of November. It's pretty small, but you can see that. And you can see he's got a sample of how to do it, and read through it on how to use it. That's what I did, because I'm like, well, that's fine, I can add a NuGet package, but how does it work? I don't know. You know, the way that I learn how to do stuff is by doing. So I had to dig through and figure it out. So yeah, anyway, yes, thanks for the question, Daz. Today it's a really good question, but with regards to this, I don't quite like this. So what I do instead, you see, because you're grouping it all together, the reason I have a features controller, and those who were paying attention in here, you'll have seen this, right? And you'll have seen when I added stuff. What I'll do is I'll add a directory, new directory, where are we, called API. And that way I can keep the API and the features completely separate. So I would then have, what would I have? So I've got features, and usually I just have the controllers there, because the API is just literally a controller, isn't it? So I would have a class, I might have a base API controller, might have a base API controller, because there might be some things in there I need to do. Keyboard's quite loud, isn't it? I might invest. So this is this has Cherry MX Blues. I might invest in Cherry MX Reds for the next one. I don't know. So what I would have is I might have a Books API controller which calls out to a service and gets some stuff and returns an API. If you look at DW Check API, which is one of the projects I've already done, you'll see how I'm using this kind of the base API and then API controller flow, but you don't have to. It's completely up to you. In fact, if I pull that up just real quick, if this loads, so you would have separate API controllers, and you may even, no, we won't add that. You may even make this protected, so you can, is it protected? No. No, okay, so you might make it private. Yeah, that makes sense. Private. So then, no, abstract. Is that right? I do know what I'm doing. Anyway, no, that's not right. Oh well, just leave that as public, it doesn't matter. Ah, yeah, we need it as public because we might have, you'll see in a moment. So if you look in here, at DW Check API, this is just literally a web API. What I have here is, if you go into like a controller method that returns something, so this controller method here, get me a book. There, you can have a look through the code if you really want to. Get me a book, goes into the service, and then it creates it takes the database model, creates a view model from it, and passes it to this method single result. Doesn't exist in here, but it exists in my base API, in my base controller, which takes in a single result, takes in a base view model, or a view model of type, and just returns JSON. That way I don't have to return JSON in every single method. But anyway, that's just how I would do it. But that way I've got features separate from API, and then automatically I don't need to do. You need to use that root attribute and go API /API/books. Whoops. Let's undo that. Might want to call that base, actually, like that. And then this one, root bother. The root attribute is available on books. Is available in what's wrong with that? What doesn't it like about that? Root. Let's just copy paste that. Because it's yeah, okay. So you don't need to do that. To be able to do this, I would need to have the. I would need to have this as well, which is a bit silly, but there you go. There we go. Yeah. So I don't need written. So I don't need to do this because this is inferred from where it exists. So I don't need to do that. Whereas in the other example where I had a controllers and then an API controller subdirectory, I needed the routing to tell it, hey, go to the, this is the root for this method. Or if I wasn't going to do that, I would need to then use my add MVC. If I go to declaration, I would need to change, oh, this is the decompiler, isn't it? Yeah, wrong one. That's not my method. That's it. There we go. So I would need to add a different route in here for the API method. So I would need to add a new name. I'd have to give it a different name. I'd have to give it a different setup and tell it go to, so we don't need to do that and we don't need this because it does it by default, which means that there's almost no usings in this file, which makes this file smaller. So happy days. So that's feature folders. That's a really quick whistle-stop tour of feature folders. If you read the blog post that I linked earlier on, or watch the video by K. Scott Allen, you'll get a little bit of a better idea of what feature folders look like. So the next thing we're going to look at, well, I think we're going to have a little bit of a break first. Let's just check my time. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to have maybe a couple of minutes just to stand up and walk around. Those who Dance to Die will know I've been having a lot of back problems recently, so I'll need to get up and just sort of walk up and down a bit just to loosen my back up. So I'll go do that. You guys can have a break if you want. Maybe 2-3 minutes, because sitting down in front of a computer or sitting down with your phone like this and leaning forward, so doing this for an hour is going to hurt you. Going to hurt your head. Or if you're sat on a laptop, gives you a chance to sort of get up, stretch your legs, get a glass of water if you want something like that. Then when we come back, I'll talk through getting to we'll create an API in the SPA layer in the other project, and we'll add all of the services that we had, and we'll start talking to those services, and we'll do that when we come back. So see you in 2-3 minutes. Is that all right? Yeah. Okay. Let's do this. And yeah. Ooh. Hey everyone, don't worry, I'm not back, excuse me, not back yet. What I thought I'd do is come back and I've already gone for a walk, got myself a drink. It's a big like a bottle of water with a purple doodah on the end. It's pretty cool. Don't worry, I'm not back going to be starting doing coding yet, but I thought I'd sit down and just for Herbilton's Robert, for his benefit, if he's still here, just a really quick overview of what I've looked at and the links I've shared. And so I've got a bunch of slides. I don't know whether you've seen. These are the things I wanted to touch on, only because I tend to waffle a lot and just sort of talk around a subject. I figured if I gave myself some, yeah, there he is. Hey. So I thought if I'd give myself some points to cover, I'll get there a little bit quicker, go through a little bit more detail. These slides will be up available somewhere. For people who are watching this on demand, check the show notes. Either if you're on YouTube, check in the summary. There might either be, I might dump a link there to the blog post about it, or I might just dump all the links. Not a problem. If you're watching live, like these guys are, well, if so, for those watching live, there'll be links in the chat. I don't know if you join later whether you see the full chat history. I don't know. It's worth a look. We'll put a bunch of links in there. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be using these links. There's a really cool link that Dan Stadai sent through about figuring out how the middleware pipeline works in .NET Core if you're from a Node background, which is really cool. And you know, there's some so yeah, if you're watching live, look through the chat if you can see it. If you're watching on demand on YouTube, check in the summary down there. If you're watching on demand on the website, have a look around the video. There'll be some stuff up there above the video over here somewhere. There'll be some stuff down there, I think, about the video with links to stuff. But anyway, yeah. So just for the people who are joining now, stuff. So there was a bunch of resources I went through. There's a link. There will be a link to these slides. They're currently on my Google Drive, but that's fine. If you're smart enough and zoom in, you can get the part of the URL and maybe guess the rest. So these are the things we're going to do. We're looking at this onion architecture system that I built September, so 2 months ago now. I'm using the terminal, I'm using Rider, I'm using the command line. And the plan was to replace the web layer with a SPA and to use feature folders and to set up services in the API. Sorry, I got a really itchy nose. And then if there's time afterwards, I am on a time limit. If there's time, I'll look at the Google Auth stuff. I will do a full stream just on external auth at some point. It's probably going to be the new year now because the rest of my year is kind of booked up, but I'll see if I can fit it in. And then how to run stuff and just on feature folders. So the next bit is services and calling from the SPA, calling back to the API, but not having to hard code the URL. It's a really cool thing that Angular does called base URL, which is really cool. I've been using it a lot in an application that I've been building, which is kind of going to be a I'm aiming at building a blog is what I'm aiming at doing. There's nothing wrong with like Blogspot and WordPress and Orchard and Umbraco and Sitecore and stuff like that, but I want to know how to build one. So the current design for the one I'm looking at, the one that I'm building, is there's an MVC layer and an API layer, SPA layer. The SPA layer uses an API to get the blog posts and the blog post content, and the MVC layer has all of the stuff for logging in and creating a blog post and stuff like that. So that has like the admin side of it. It's going to be along the same lines as Miniblog and Miniblog Core, which are two projects made by Mads Christensen. See if I can find it actually really quick. Mini blog core. There's also one by Scott Wildermuth, which his website runs on there we go. So this is Mads Christensen's one. This is an entire blog engine built in .NET Core, and he uses like some really cool like text editing and stuff. The way that mine works is it's literally just going to be Markdown, because Ghost uses Markdown, WordPress uses Markdown, Umbraco I think supports Markdown as well. But there you go. The great thing about Mads one is he's got all of these really cool things that he's added in, like all of the validators and all of that kind of stuff, and the SEO stuff, because Mads is a genius. But you can see how his works. I wonder if he's, because that's, so yeah, I mean, it's pretty cool. That's cool. It doesn't really, but it's got all these really cool things. It's got a comment system, and it's got so you can go to the admin side and stuff. But yeah, so if I go back, so it's going to be something like this, but with a spa. Oh bother! But with a spa as the front end rather than MVC, just because I don't know, just because. Yeah, and then there's Sean Wildermuth's one. Mouth. I'm gonna get that wrong, but blog. That's Wildermuth, right? Which he has this really cool thing called the Hello World podcast. If you're really into development, you should should listen to his Hello World podcast. But if I go Sean Wildermuth blog GitHub, right? The code that runs his blog is on here. There is Wilderblog. So this is pretty cool, but it's .NET Core 1, but that's not a problem. So this is, and I've had a look through this. This works similarly to the way that. Okay. So it's .NET Core 2. He's just not updated the thing there. So I've looked at the way this works, and this works pretty similarly. Yes. Thanks, Dan Stalai. Yes, it is probably more Muth. I'm not sure. I always get everybody's name wrong. Even if it says Jeff, I get it wrong somehow. But that's fine. I don't mean to. Dan Stalai says in the comments he's heard Wildermuth's name pronounced kind of like Muth on .NET Rocks, and that's probably how it's pronounced. I'm not sure. I'm not very good with names, but there you go. But I've had a look at this one. So I've posted a link to this in the chat as well. And I've had a look at this one, and this one runs pretty similarly to the way that WordPress works. So that's cool. I'm not sure this is a brilliant idea, the Bootstrap 4 beta, but that's me. It's nice to live on the edge. But then if you live on the edge and you've got Bootstrap and everything changes, and I don't know. But anyway, yeah. So that's cool. But yeah, and he wrote that. He started working on that last year, about the time that I was picking up steam with my .NET Core blog. So yeah. So maybe the plan is, if I can get my blog engine running, and I can plug any security holes that are there by default, I could maybe have it hosted on Azure or on my VPS, and have it running .NET Core. That would be cool, wouldn't it? .NET Core on .NET Core. But there you go. And then you could have like a public API you could subscribe to get the blog posts outside of the page. I don't know. Anyway, if I get time, I'll go through that really quickly. But yes, so what we're going to do is, if I add to this, so we're going to have a look at, if everybody's ready, I don't know, going to have a look at add existing project. So, excuse me, for those who weren't there at the beginning, we created a spot. I've just gone through the in here. We created a .NET Core single page application. That seems really weird to say that twice. We created that at the beginning. I'd actually created it before I started this, because there were 160 megabytes of node packages to pull down, which is not a lot. But when you're streaming a video up and you're trying to download at the same time, something's got to give, And I played the cautious game and pulled down all the node packages first. I keep looking at, just as an aside, I do this all the time. Just as an aside, every time I look over to talk to you guys, I look at the preview of me and on the screen, which is kind of like here, the bottom corner, so like here, right? I'm looking at me talking instead of looking up here where the camera is. I need to be better at this, but don't worry about it. Right, me telling you not to worry. Anyway, so this is the spa, the spa project. That's going to restore some packages, but that's fine. It's probably going to cause issues when I hit build on this, but that's fine. I won't run it through here. I'll run it in the command line. So let's close that out. Whoops. CD out of there. CD engine.spa. There we go. ls. So this is the single page application project. I already ran this earlier on. The what's this? Updating the source files. Yeah, I should probably not have done this. So pause that one. Did I pause that? No, okay. Right, we'll leave that one running and we'll come back to it in a minute. So if I do ASP.NET core environment development run, I fell over with this when I built a single page application in my previous stream. So this will be the third live stream that I've done so far. There we go. The first one I did was on the Onion architecture. Second one I did was building a single page application using .NET Core. And the third one, which is this one, I messed something up in the second video and had to restart. And I made a big point of saying, hey, sometimes you mess up and sometimes you get it wrong. What I did was I created a single page application project, and then I opened one of the TypeScript files with Rider. And what Rider does is it says, hey, this is the TypeScript file. Do you want me to convert it to JavaScript for you? And I said, yes. Problem with that is that Rider would convert it to JavaScript, but it wouldn't. It did something to the TypeScript file and didn't update it or something. So when the .NET Core JavaScript services step in and the Webpack file is run, which we've just done here, Webpack has just been run, and it created my file in just over 1.5 seconds. It would overwrite the JavaScript, but with a cached version of the TypeScript, I think. So I ended up making loads of changes and then running it, and none of the changes would happen, which is really quite annoying. So all I did was I paved it, just deleted it, and created it again, because I'd only gotten like 5 minutes into it. So that's cool. That's fine. So if I go here, so we've got localhost 5000 here. I'm going to get rid of that background tasks. It's now indexing everything. I told it not to. Index. Pause. Nope. Pause. There we go. I don't want that running. Right. Okay. So this is the single page application template for .NET Core. And what I did earlier on was I ran the single page application template and talked through the terminal and all of the logging and stuff, and then I ran the MVC app and talked through the logging on that, just so you could see the difference. And I mean, this is really quite cool. There's like a counter, and you can increment that, and there's a thing that fetches some data and stuff. It's really, I'm just going to grab this. It's really quite cool. Anything? Nothing. Okay. So what we're going to do is I'm going to really quickly show you the amazingness that is. I mean, I covered this in the previous video, but I'm going to show you the amazingness that is the JavaScript framework stuff. So there's some .NET Core packages, the JavaScript services, that enables you to do this thing called hot module swapping. I pronounced that really obviously. There we go. So web dev middleware. I don't know if you can see that. Let's get rid of this. So if we're in development, use the Webpack development middleware and do hot module replacement. So what that does is if I make a change to some TypeScript or some HTML or some CSS and I hit save, Webpack steps in on the Webpack middleware on the server steps in, rebuilds all of the stuff for the component I've just changed, sends it over to the browser that's running, and hot swaps it in. So you keep the state, but your JavaScript changes, or you keep the state and your HTML changes, or you keep the state and your CSS changes. And that's really cool. Really cool. So you can do things like, let's have a look at the counter, right? So, oh, we've got a test there. So we can do, right? If I do that, I'll try and do this so you can see it all happening all at once. So if I drag this down there, hopefully my ugly mug isn't going to be in the way, right? If I do this, go to counter, and I go seed it to 8, right? Save. Did you see that? In the log, it went and it went, oh, you've changed some files. So where are we? So let's have a look. You've changed some files here. Node will restart because the file changed. It's going to rebuild. It rebuilt it. It then silently sent the hot update web JSON to the browser. Then the browser did a bit of magic of swapping some files over, and it had to refresh the page for this one. So that means nothing's going to happen because we're multiplying by 2. That was probably a really bad example. ++, save that. What we can do instead is we can, this is how we do it. This is the better example. That was a really bad example that went really wrong, but that's fine. Counter component. So if I add a CSS file, I can't add a file because it wants to index everything. Wonderful. Sometimes I really like Rider and sometimes I don't. What I'm going to do is I'm going to drop out of Rider and bring it up with Visual Studio Code, because what's happening here is I want to add a file. I want to go right click, add a new file, but it's not letting me add different types. I can add a manual one. I could go counter.component.css. I don't want to have to do .css every time. And the reason it's doing that is because Rider wants to index all of the files, but I've told it not to because it's a huge waste of CPU time at the moment. I'm trying to do this with you guys. But anyway, that doesn't matter. Right, okay. So what we can do here is as we make changes, the .NET code will step in and go, oh, you've made a change. I'll shut down Node, start it back up and send the file back across. That's cool. So we'll just get rid of this. Right, we'll get rid of this. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to add to the SPA project all of the references that were added to the web one for each of these layers. So I just need to go down here. I need to grab these. I'm just going to copy paste it because it's easier. So I'm going to grab these. Oh, that's annoying. Let's grab the whole item group. I might need it all actually. Yeah, let's grab all of this. So we're going to go. Yeah, we'll grab all of these. Include the control. Oh, right, hang on. I think I've broken something in here. Controller, delete that directory. We don't need it. Right, so what was happening there is features do. Yeah. Okay, so what was happening there is, remember I created a bunch of these folders just to show you stuff. So there are lines in the item, in the web, the CS proj that says include this folder. So even if it's not there, it'll create the folder and then dump it out on if you do a publish or whatever. But we don't want that. So let's. This is going to take a lot of effort to get working, but let's do this anyway. So let's copy that and let's paste this in here real quick. So I'm just going to get this running. It would be quicker to have two separate projects, one as a SPA and one not as a SPA, for the time being. And then what I would do is in the future I would take the web project here and add the SPA stuff to it. But this is going to be quicker. Actually, no. What we'll do instead is I will actually show you close solution. I'll show you Narrativia, which is the web, the blog project I'm working on. So there we go, which uses spars and feature directories and all the stuff that we wanted to drag that back over there. So this uses the feature directories and the single page application stuff and all that kind of stuff I'm going to show you. So let's go cd out, cd narrativia. Let's have a look in here. So UI ASP decor environment equals development .net environment. So when I talked about this earlier at the beginning of the stream, I'd said that I explicitly use ASP environment.net core at this particular command to run everything in development, because what I like to do is I like to have my standard path variable for ASP.NET Core environment as production. That way, whenever I run it from the command line, I know what it's going to behave like when I dump it on a server. So I know what it's going to be like on live. And then if I need to do development from the command line, I'll do this. I like running from the command line every now and again. And if I don't need a debugger, then I'll do this. If I need a debugger, I'll use Rider to do that. So what I'll do is our environment. So the reason I'm checking that a couple of times, Dance to Die will tell you. He's in the chat. I spelt that wrong. In fact, let's do it again. And so that's wrong. Environment, not environ. No, that is right. That's wrong. Environment. So let's run that. So what happens here is ASP.NET Core environment equals development says that says temporarily set the ASP.NET Core environment flag to development and then do whatever the rest of the commands are. So I'm saying set it to development and then run the application. Except in here I'm saying set a flag called ASP.NET Core environment to development and run the application, which means we're not going to run it in development, and you'll see that in a moment. So one of the things that happens with a JavaScript services .NET Core application is they take a long time to boot, because what's happening is it's firing up all the stuff for ASP.NET Core, and then after that it fires Webpack and loads Node and does all that kind of wonderfulness. And we'll soon find out which version of this it's on. I have a private Git installation which has this, and I've pulled this from the Git, and I think I've pulled the old version. We get a lot of this, so don't worry about those errors. That is a very specific thing that's happening, so long as it actually runs. No, this is the old version with the errors. Okay. See, this is why I show you this kind of stuff. Document is not defined. I think it's calmed down. Is this the broken version? It is the broken version. There's a lot of errors in the current version. Yeah, we'll stop that. We'll stop that. Stop. Cancel. Is it this memory stick? I've got it somewhere. Anyway, yeah. So the reason I wanted to show you this is it's a lot faster than setting up another repo and copying stuff over. So this is an Onion architecture design, so it has that same data DTO repo services that the Onion architecture has. So this is my entities. Actually, I could change this. I'll talk about that in a minute. So I've got the entities layer, then I've got a repository layer which calls the entity layer. I've got services which calls the repository layer, and I've got DTO, which I can't remember where that's called. Let's find out. Base DTO, blog post, DTO. So where is this used? Find me all the usages. It's been a while since I looked at this, you see. So let's have, where does, find usages, there we go. Shift and F12. Oh yeah, well done. Blog post DTO. Oh well. Anyway, it doesn't matter about that. So what this does is we have the view model, the view, which is a JavaScript single page application, which is currently broken on this version, but it's fixed on my laptop, which means it's probably not on this memory stick. It might be on a different memory stick, but I'd have to lose the keyboard to do it. I've only got 2 USB ports, but anyway, right. Okay, so this is a dot. You see, I like showing off broken software because then you can see that it's not all perfect. Also, it shows that I've not planned this at all. Okay. Anyway, so in this package, in this solution, I have in my web project, I've got startup.cs. Here we go. So I've got feature folders as we discussed before. So if I go to, it's the exact same code. Go to declaration. If I move across, we've got the feature location expander, which is the exact same code again. So let's click in there, do a go to declaration, and it is the same code. It's the same code that's in the other project. So this is going to say looking API, looking features shared. So the idea here with this application is that we fire it up and we have features, which just has a home page, and we have API, which has our API. So what we do here, I'm just going to show off an Angular thing rather than, and how to do a certain Angular thing rather than, I wonder why I know what's causing this as well. Document is not defined. I know what's causing this. It's the markdown stuff I've added. Oh, maybe that's it. Just bear with me a second. npm, I bet that's it. Install. I bet that's it. I bet I'm missing some package. So what I'm doing with this one is, because it's all markdown, I'm using a node package to render the markdown for me, and they're all up to date. I've broken something. Oh well. So what I'm doing here is I'm using a node package to render the markdown for me, and it's more than likely that node package which is broken. So I could, if I go to the home, maybe I could quickly remove it. Yeah, it's this one here, you see. If I get rid of that real quick, select all, and then in the home component, is there any? Yeah, there is. Okay. Comment that out. I bet this isn't going to work after I do that. Right there. And then blog post list. This is going to take a moment. Yeah, it's all going to be marked down here. No, this doesn't use the markdown stuff. Ace. That makes this a lot quicker. Okay. So that's that. It is being used. Comment that line out. Select blog post list. Maybe because I'm using it, but I'm not. Interesting. Right, we'll try that again. I don't think it's going to work, but we'll try it again. So what's happening is, so what this is meant to do is, I have a database. I'll show you the database in a minute. I've got a database with tables in it, and each with a blog post table in it. And the blog post table has blog post content as a string, but as a markdown string, so that way I don't have to do any escaping of characters and stuff when I store it. I don't have to worry about like angle brackets and stuff when I'm sending stuff to and from the API. And I send it as a JSON string, and then I could just use it as is. What's going on here? Oh, that's fine. It's probably going to tell me I've done something wrong here. If this works, it'll be brilliant. Oh, that's fine. It's going to complain about that. I'm injecting core, that. Okay, so, yes, warning primitives, that's fine. Oh yeah, how does that show up? That shows up as kind of orangey. On my screen here in front of me, that shows up as yellow. So that's interesting. Anyway, so I'll let that build. And the idea is you access a page. So the standard pages, so like localhost, fires a SPA, which then a single page application, which goes to this, which sends a message to the API and says, get me some stuff, and displays it all. Because I thought, and it's funny actually, what I thought was, well, a blog, you don't need to render the pages server side. You don't need to render the pages server side if all you're doing is showing them. So why not just have the relevant data that's going to change be sent across as a single page application, and that way the moving around within the blog isn't good. It's not, you don't have a huge chain of redirects and stuff, and it makes the initial page load quicker and stuff like that. But that's my personal opinion. The short version is I wanted an excuse to use a single page application. So that's what this is. So if we're running in production, that's fine. So if I do this, oh, it won't have a counter, but that's fine. I wonder if we get all the logging. Probably not. Did it not work? Oh, because I spelled it wrong. Environment. Yeah. No, I'm getting errors everywhere. That's a real shame. And I know what it is. I know exactly what it is. So the thing that causes the issue... Oh, man. I get it. So the thing that causes the issue is that I've used a node package for rendering Markdown, and it expects the page to be fully rendered before it's added. So I need to change the package, basically. I could really quickly fix it, I think, if I go through all of these and remove... Anyway, so what I'm going to show you instead of I'll get that all working in a moment, but what's really cool about Angular is that Angular knows everything about the application that's currently running. So it knows about... So I'm programming my single page application to use Angular. And what's great about it is Angular knows a whole bunch of stuff about where the requests have come from, what the application is running on, and that's what this is, right? So what I did originally was I had a class that had a const string. So I had a let my base API string equals that's what I had originally. I had a let base API. I can't do that because it's in the constructor for my TypeScript, but I just wanted to dump it somewhere so you could see it. So I did something along the lines of that, and then I would build up a string from that. So I'd go let API root equal backtick $. Where's the $? There's the $. This my API string, and I'd build it up from there. But that's no good, because then you've got to change it as it moves from local dev out to a server, out to production, out to somewhere. You then have to keep on top of changing the URL for stuff. So what's really cool about Angular, and they've thought about everything when they built Angular, and it's probably been in AngularJS, but inject base URL. So this says, give me the base URL of where I've come from, of the whole page, and inject that in. And this is a bit of TypeScript. So it's saying, set me up a protected string, so a protected variable that is of type string called base URL, and then inject that value into it. It's really cool. And then I take that base URL, I pass it into, so this home component extends the base component. If I go to my base component, you see this is, I like inheritance. It's really good for hiding stuff like this. So we've got a base component which takes in an origin URL, which is what, if I go back here, that's what I'm calling this base URL. This origin URL and a public HTTP. And all I'm doing is I'm saying within this component have a public method called API URL, which returns a type of string, which is just origin URL with API / on the end. And then I consume that by going API URL, remember we've already put the / on the end, pages / home. And that will do a get for, see, this is where this is brilliant. Remember I did the features folder. This will do API, where are we? Pages, that's the N here, pages controller, so that needs to be renamed to pages controller. Let me do that first before I forget. Right click, rename pages controller. So that goes into API controller, pages controller, and then we've said go to home. So this is a controller that's going to have the standard JSON for basically each page as you move through the app. So this is the home controller. This says, go get me page 1 from the pages service, which is kind of hard coded for now. So that gets, oh, it's the wrong one. So that's in my services, pages service. We take in a page ID, go to the database, get me the page, convert it to a DTO within the service, because because the API method doesn't need to know anything about the data coming back. So it gets the data it's ready to send send back as a response. If we get one, if we don't get one, send an error response. Otherwise, send the page back. Page comes back. It's then in this let result JSON equals data, convert it to the right thing, get the about text, and then set loading to false. If I could get it running, I would show you. In fact, let's take 10 minutes and see if I can get it running, because that would be ace. So all I need to do is I need to remove this package. I'll remove the package in a moment, but I need to remove references to it, I guess. So let's have a look in these TS files. So there's no markdown stuff in there. It's probably going to break a lot of stuff. If I do that, oh bother, undo that, no, undo that. See, I'm using a Windows keyboard on a Mac laptop, so Control and Command are in the wrong places. Oh, I just got a message. Yeah, I'll ignore that for a moment. Yeah, so TS. So let's get rid of that. So it doesn't inject that in. See, select blog post, comma, save. If I'd have thought about this properly, I could have showed you this properly. But there you go. What's the complaint about there? Colon. What is wrong with that? No, I didn't think so. It was just being weird. TS. Alright. Remove that one. F menu TS. Brilliant. So then app module server. ng module. That's brilliant. And then the browser. So these are all the files and the stuff that's required to get your single page application running. Declarations. We're doing an import. Markdown module. There we go. Get rid of that. Ugh, done it again. Get rid of that. So we're no longer importing that module. We ain't going to do that either. Get rid of that. That's probably the thing that's causing it. So then if I run this again, I run it, whoa, bother. I run it with the correct command, environment. What's going to happen is we'll rebuild all the JavaScript, and it should not have the markdown module, which means the page will run, but it'll look terrible and there'll be no content. But that's fine. I can't remember what I did to fix it, but I fixed it on Mac. I fixed it with my PC, not on here. And I checked it into Git, but this is an earlier version of it. So really, I should have pulled the latest version of this code before I started. It's not included in there. So if I go here, boot server.ts. Okay, so that's going to get me that. These are all, I think these are auto-generated. I don't think, don't need to touch these. So there's a lot of stuff. I still need to learn Angular. There's a lot of stuff in this that I'm not sure of, and I'm not sure of how it all works and stuff. So, oh bother, I didn't need to open that. Yeah, we'll close that, that's fine. Module shared, so that's doing as development. It's going to do, so Node's kicked in. I know that Node's kicked in because my laptop's fan is going mental. I wonder whether this will work. I hope it will. Because I can slowly start adding things back in, and we can figure out maybe together why it's not working. There, no, Node's still going. Okay. Oh, bother. Refresh. It's probably not going to load the page because we haven't finished building the JavaScript, but we'll find out. Oh, no. Markdown component is still being loaded. Oh, because I hadn't finished building the JavaScript. What a wally. laptop booping at me because of... I should have let it continue to build. It's this markdown module. It's a real shame. I wonder why it doesn't... Oh well, but that's cool, because that's how we solve these problems. We present the problem and say, hey, this is a problem, and then we fix it. So what I'll do is environment development.now run. So let's just... I wonder if there's npm webpack. If I run npm webpack, do you reckon it'll... If I did that, do you reckon it'll actually build the... No. What does it want? It's not a node webpack. Meh. Let's just run it. Yeah, let's just run it. See what happens. Get this working. And this time I'll wait for the web. I'll wait for Webpack to finish its job of building the. I think I want to go for a run. I'll wait for Webpack to finish building the JavaScript, because something in the compiled. So there's a main server.js. I think you guys saw me open it, and it kind of it made. If I close all of this, it made Rider slow all the way down. So distribution main server. Fender. So yeah, so opening these files brings performance of Rider down because they're massive. But this is the single JavaScript file that gets dumped onto your client, and then you run from that. So that's that's pretty cool. I wonder whether having this open is going to cause an issue. Oh well, that is going to cause an issue, isn't it? Anyway, I just need to be patient is what I need to be, because this laptop isn't the best in the world, but it's really good at what it does. It's just not the best at it. Maybe I should upgrade. For those who are interested, where's that going to load? So 2014. There's a lot of people out there laughing at me probably, but I don't care. Let's see if we can get this running. Really good if we could. Right, so it's in development, so it should be building the JavaScript. So in here, if we're in development, use the Webpack middleware. Enable support this hosts an instance of Webpack compiler in memory in your application so that you can always serve up-to-date Webpack built resources without having to run the compiler manually. Since the Webpack compiler instance is retained in memory, incremental compilation is vastly faster than running the compiler from scratch. Incoming requests that match Webpack built files are handled by returning the Webpack compiler output directly. That's cool. I'm going to dig into how this works because it's really cool. This is going to be another one where it's not going to go well, but there you go. I wonder why. Maybe. I got rid of that. Yeah, I got rid of the colon that. Oh, this is going to turn into one of those where I start asking people how to do this. I'm not brilliant at Node, but I'm getting there. I am learning some stuff. So what I've done, if I can find, where's my package.json? Is this, is it Webpack? Dev dependencies. Is that what's happened? That's what's happened, isn't it? Oh, bother. That's what's happened. So, for those who don't know how to read Node, let me just drag this over here. For those who don't know how to read Node, this is a package manager, and this is the packages that I'm after. Right? But what's happened is, it hasn't included, so if I go in here, so what is not included when I did npm install, is it's not included the markdown library. That's why it was falling over. If you look, so the package I used, oh no, there it is, Angular 2 Markdown. Weird. this even building? Do you even build? No, you're not. That's weird. Okay, let's Control C. Let's get rid of the, I wonder how you remove a package. npm-help. You know what? Let's just get rid of this package from here, because that's probably what's causing it. Because that's included. So we'll do npm install. Oh, npm install. There we go. Just see what that does. I'm just sending a quick text message. Excuse me. So that's done. Removed 8 packages. Ace. So if I run it again, then what's going to happen is, hopefully, what's going to happen is it's going to rebuild stuff and not include that markdown package. Maybe that's it. Maybe I need to find a different markdown package. Excuse me one moment. I'm just going to do this. Hello again. Sorry about that. Yeah, it's still not building it, is it? It's not building. I wonder how I can run npm run webpack. Run webpack. Can I just run it from the... All I needed to do is just build a... Oh, I can just run webpack. Oh, okay. Let's try that. Oh, of course it's not. What about if I do node and then do webpack? Webpack is not defined. Oh, of course not. I need to know more about node, basically. I've broken this. I don't know how to fix it. Yes. Okay. Dance to die. Yes. Sorry, I had a phone call come through. I had to take a look at that. Sorry. Yes. Should be back now. I'm having a bit of trouble with webpack, but I don't know how to get it to run. So what I've done is I need to get it to rebuild my JavaScript, and I don't know how to get it to do that. I need to learn more about Node and Webpack and stuff. Ah, yes. Okay, Dance to Die has recommended I do install Webpack. It should already be installed, but I'll do it anyway. Well, it should already be installed because it's listed in my packages.json. And I did do it in npm. Oh, right. So Dance to Die has just said that if I want to run it in the command line, I need to do the global flag. Thank you, Dance to Die. I still need to learn a lot about Node and npm. What I'm going to do is, if I can get this working, I'll show you it running. If I can't get it working, then I think I'll stop for today. Get it working, and then I'll do a different stream where it's, hey, this is working. But you see, I like it. As if I was viewing this, I'd be interested in this because it's showing where things go wrong and the thought process behind how to get it working. But that's me. That's what I do. I like to see things go. Oh, yep, yes. So if I do web pack, can I run that from here? Is it going to pick up the webpack JSON and rebuild it all for me? Well, it looks like it's doing something, so that's good. Will that pick up my webpack file? Because I do have a webpack config. Yes! Okay, so that's rebuilt those. So what about if I quickly rerun this? I should be able to run it without that markdown dependency, and it should just run really quickly. There'll be nothing on the screen, but I can show you what it actually does. Excuse me 1 second. Just need to grab this. Okay. Sorry about that. Right. More coffee. More coffee. Oh. That was the last of the coffee. Thank you for that, Dance to Die. That looks like it definitely did something, didn't it? It rebuilt stuff. So let's find out. I'll be really upset if this doesn't work. Let's watch here. So the reason it wasn't doing, yeah, right. See if you can spot in here why Webpack isn't doing its thing. Such a rookie mistake. And it's how have I spelt development? Development. Oh dear. If I do this, I often have these issues, and the reason I have these issues is because of what I said earlier on. When I want the whole thing to run as production all the time and then switch to development when I'm running from the command line. So because I misspelt development, my ASP.NET Core environment variable was set to develop element. There we go. You can see it's that. Look. So we've got the login back. It's probably going to kick in and do Node in a minute. I know it is because my laptop fan's going mental. There we go. So let's just so you can see, right? Can you see this? Where the mouse pointer is? Let's move that slightly. Mouse caret. DEVELOPEMENT, which meant this is a great example of how the startup.cs works, right? Okay, so this environment is development. If I go to declaration, you see, you need to know all this stuff. It's brilliant. Okay, right, is development, right? So is development says, do we have a hosting environment? Brilliant. And then we do hosting environment is environment hosting name.development. Environment.development is a static, not a static, it's a global variable. If I go to declaration on that, it's going to return. If it's going to go there, I don't think it can. It's a string, so it should be able to go to declaration. Oh, because I've got that highlighted. So a couple of things I don't like about. There we go. Development is the name of development. So it looks for. So this is a C#6 thing. This here, brilliant. So it says name of this variable. So what that does is that goes, get me the failed called development, get me the string which represents that field. So that's returning development. It wasn't returning, oh bother cancel. It wasn't returning development with an E in there. The spell check. Thanks, Dance to Die. Yes, I do need a spell checker in the command line. And no, it's not a British spelling. It's a Jamie can't spell spelling. But thanks. At least you noticed it. So what would have happened is the hosting environment is environment. That would have returned the string DEVELOPMENT. this would have failed, which technically puts it in production, which means this didn't fire, which meant my JavaScript wasn't rebuilt, which meant when I removed the package, it didn't. But anyway, yes. So the way this works, excuse me, so if I do this, we're not going to see anything on screen, I don't think. Oh, look at that. You see my great big ugly mug. But what's happening here, so if I go to startup.cs, if I go to home, there we go, home component TS, right? What happens here, I might be able to put a breakpoint in actually. If I go inspect, because I don't want to do command and I. Oh, of course it loaded it over there. Ooh, I have Chrome 62. Ta-da! Right, okay. So if I go to sources, and then I go to, so this is great with, because I'm in development, everything gets dumped at me in the same directory structure. If I do it in production, I get one JavaScript file. I get the, you saw it here, the file that's built. Where are we? Whichever file it was. When I ran Webpack from the command line, we would get the main client.js. Well, we'd get a minified version of it, but yeah, we'd get main client.js, which would just, this would just say client up main client.js. But because we're doing it in development mode, we get all of everything that is sent. So if I put a breakpoint in here and I refresh the page, right, you'll see this happen. We fire the home controller. So this is, because it's firing the home controller, I've gone to localhost 5000/home, which matches something in the home controller. Huh, that didn't work. Maybe that will work. Maybe I need to put a breakpoint in. Ah, there we go. Right, okay, so what happens here is, oh, let me see, can I increase the size of that first? Because that's not easy for y'all to see, is it? Let's see if I can do this really quickly. I do have to, where are we? Shortcuts? No, not shortcuts. Settings, there it is. So let's go settings. First of all, let's include dark mode because I like that. Dark theme. Ta-da! Right, that's better. And we'll see if we can increase if we can't, then I'll try and zoom in. No. Can it zoom in? Maybe I can zoom in on the code in here. Sources. Where's my breakpoint? Oh, bother. Click there. Can I? Nope. That's just put a plus in there. Anyway. Well, I mean, you'll be able to. I'll be able to show you the code anyway, because I've put my breakpoint in here. So if I go, oh right. Watch this, right? Remember I said about hot module swapping? Save, boom, changes happened, right? The page is going to be the page isn't refreshed, but the new JavaScript is dumped in. Ta-da! Boom, look at that, brilliant. Right, okay, so what we've got is in the constructor, we're saying we want access to a thing called HTTP of type Angular HTTP. We want you to inject the base URL and put it in this base URL string and then send it off to the super class. So this is the try holding. So Dance to Die said try holding control and doing mouse up and down. No, mouse up and down. No, mouse up and down. Oh well, it's fine. I can pull everything out into here and put it in a file if we need to. So what we're saying is inject me the base URL, put it into this protected string called base URL, call the constructor of the super class, which is base component, with the base URL and the HTTP type that we're passed in. And then what we're going to do, if I clear all that out, if I go this, is that the right this? Sometimes it gets it wrong. Yep. So if I go this dot base URL, remember, so base URL, I wish I could zoom in. I wonder if is there a way to zoom in on a Mac? Let's find out. Nope, no. No? Okay, fair enough. It's not a problem. Oh, magnifying the screen. Nice. Right, okay, so what we're doing here is this.base URL. I'm doing a check for this.base URL, right? Ah, brilliant. I can. If I go to accessibility, apparently I can zoom in. Zoom, here we go. So if I go like Command, Shift and 8. So if I go like that. Oh yeah, look at this. Right. Okay. I don't know whether you can see that. Probably not. Command, Shift and 8. Oh, I don't know how to turn it off now. Command, Shift 8. Anyway. Right, okay, so I can't do that and show you, I don't think. But that's not a problem. So what we've done here in the debugger tools is if you look at inject base URL, it's taken the value localhost oh bother moving the screen around now, localhost 5000. So I'll just copy this out. So the base, so this.base URL returns localhost 5000. So what's great about that, it's really small, isn't it? But I just did in the JavaScript compiler. Let me bring up VS Code, right? Because that's easier to see this kind of thing in. No, you're not going to do it. Oh, there it is. Nope, that's interesting. Don't know why it's done that. Oh, it's done a Google for it. Visual Studio Code. If I just do code. This is just so that I can have a notepad or something really quick, so I can show you that. So I did, when this fires up, so I've done a, yeah, right, so I did this.base URL in the command compiler preferences. It's not going to do it. User settings. Come on. So if I do editor font size 18, save. Yeah, so I did that in, close that, that's an update. So I ran that command in the console, in Chrome's console, and it returned localhost 5000, which is fantastic, right? If I then let this run through to my, I have a get here, right? I run that, right? It's going to try and get me the about string. This is going to fail, but that's fine. I'll show you this in a moment. So, oh bother. ROUTE. That's my local variable, right? So I've let Chrome run through to here. Put a breakpoint on that line. So I'm doing let root equal to this. So this.api URL, and that's come out as. So if I do this, copy paste it into here so you can see it. I did a show me what the value of root is. It'll do me that. If I do if I do this dot API, I call it API URL, which is really cool. So I have that. So I've done a request, get me the API URL, it's giving me this. This is because Angular is blooming good. Okay, so this thing here, inject base URL. So I'm injecting the base URL. Let me go in actually in Rider. This inject the base URL. Give me the base URL for this application, regardless of where I am. Right? So that means what happens here, right, is we put in a get to the server, and we say go to the API pages home, and then return some JSON, right? So if I do run that through, that's going to do blog post list. So what I'll do is I'll have a look at the. I know this is really small. I apologize, people who are looking, who are watching. .ts. There we go. So this is going to do a very, very, very similar thing. I bet if I run that properly, it would have worked. Oh well. So this is going to put in a request to blog post list, right? So this is going to put in a. So if I show you the blog post stuff, blog post list. So this returns a list of compressed blog post information. This blog post list. A blog post is a controller. This is an API controller, remember, and I don't have to mark my API as having a root of API. I don't need to change the root. I have here, but I don't need that. I could take that out and rerun it. It would still work. So I'm saying, get me the blog post list. This returns my blog posts, which then has this information, right? If I do this, I wonder whether this is going to work. Yeah. So this would have the body in there. So what I can do in my blog post component, so this should be returning the markdown data. And if the markdown, you can see there, you see markdown data equals. So if this was working, I could have just put that in there. But what I'm going to do instead, I wonder whether it will work. If I do div text, yeah, header small, image source. This one, oh, right here. If I just do the handlebar notation, and I go blog post dot body text, it won't be formatted. I can save that. It'll do some stuff in the background. It'll send a new version of it across. And all of a sudden, boom, my text is there. It's not great because it is in Markdown, but it's just. So if I go back a page and I show you, oh, bother, I've left my breakpoint in. Let's get rid of breakpoints. So this is talking to an API and getting data back from that API in with the feature folders. So this is me using those feature folders, right? So if I go, I wish that the Markdown thing was working because then it would look ace. But this is, so the idea is, when this collapses, if I click it properly, oh dear, it's opening again. So the idea behind this is that all of the stuff to view the blog posts is all stored in this API. So you put in an API request to get a blog post out, and there'll be one for RSS and stuff like that. And the other stuff that's going to go in here, the admin side of it, is all going to be in MVC. So you can go to /admin. Doesn't matter. So the way that the JavaScript services work is it looks for, where are we? In here, app. Is it in this one? No, it's not in this one. It's in, nope. Module browser, nope. Module shared. There we go. Right, so what happens is, so in the root, I mean, this is according to the DevTools, page shortcuts for Mac are, brilliant. Command Shift and plus. Ace. So thank you, Dance to Die. And mate, you're a proper super detective today. You are Sherlock Dance to Die Holmes today. You've worked out everything for me. But yeah, so on a Mac you can hold Command Shift and plus to zoom in, and Command Shift and minus to zoom back out in the console. I didn't know that, but that's fine. Let's just quickly try that. So if I do Command, I'm going to do it over here on my. Oh yeah, look at that. That's ace. Thank you very much, Dance to Die. That's brilliant. We can use that another time. So yeah, what was I saying? Yes. So with this is Angular stuff. So I'm probably teaching the current crowd who are watching how to suck eggs. But in the router or router, depending on how you want to pronounce it, we're saying for the root of the route, right? We're saying if the path is blank, send me to home, and match the entire path. If the path is home, send me to the home component. If it's blog post list, send me to the blog post list component. This is really cool. I did not know how to do this. I had to look this up. If you want to pass something into a component, use this kind of funky format, / and then a colon, and then the name of the thing. There's probably a better way to do it. I don't know. I'm still learning Angular. I'm still learning Node. I'm getting there. So that, what happens there, so if I go back to that one, yeah. So if I go back here, we're passing in the ID. If I go to the blog post component and look here, activated root, there we go. So on initialization of this component, we look in the parameters for a parameter called ID, and then we instantly do a get for it. Excuse me. Because this is JavaScript async with a callback, the rest of the page gets set up in the time it takes to get this back, which is ace. So this does a get, it sets up the page, and then when that's, so that is a subscription, so when that fires, this happens and it loads all the data. I'm still getting there with this. I really wish I could get the markdown. In fact, let's try getting this markdown thing working. Let's try it, because it's worth a shot, right? I've got like 10 minutes, and then I'm going to have to go, but let's try it. So let's go back to here. I wonder whether it's still listed. No. Okay, so let's do... Oh, you know what? Let's not do it manually. Let's do it automatically. Oh, I'm taking too many things off. Let's not do it manually. Let's do it automatically. So if I drop out, it's going to take a moment. That's fine. So what's happening there is in that message, if I go, I should be able to, there it is. So this message is saying that it's expecting Webpack to talk to me. Webpack HMR should be sending messages to the server as we speak, but it stopped sending messages. So that's a bit of a shame, but there you go. So if I do command C npm install, so there's probably a lot better Angular to Markdown. So I chose this one just because it's one of the first ones that came up. That's probably not going to be the right command to run, but there you go. So let's run that. So this is the Markdown library that I chose just because it was one of the first ones that showed up on Google. So if I scroll down to here, Angular CLI, Angular C, Webpack, browser module for root. So what I'll try and do is I'll try and add things back in step by step and see where it falls over. I'm pretty sure I know where it falls over, but we'll try it. I think, like I say, I think it's because this particular library, oh, right, I've got 2 instances of that open. I think it's because this particular library requires the page to be fully rendered and ready for some reason. 38 seconds. So let's run development. Let's run that. So that's going to be in there. So let's close this. Yeah, there it goes. Close this. We're in the blog component, so let's just try that. Close all of these. Close all. If I can get this working, it'd be brilliant. Like I say, I've got about 10 minutes left, but that's interesting. It didn't close that one. So in here, I have this markdown for root. I've got a feeling that's what was causing it. So let's undo. No, okay, let's undo that. And then development. I feel like I should have left that going. Let's just close that because now I've got so many windows open and everything's updating. It's running a bit slow, but that's fine. Okay, so we're running that. There we go. It's starting to piece things together. I wonder whether we need a timer in the corner. That would be really exciting, you know? Like in those action films where it's like, oh no, we've got 8 minutes to stop the bomb from going off. And they do it in 12 somehow. Right, okay. So, just rolling the sleeves up. Here we go. Right, let's see if we can get this going. This stream has been going for nearly 3 hours. This is pretty cool. I've not done one this long before. Let's see if we can get it going. I hope we can get this going. It's taking a while to build, but it takes a while. There we go. Right, so we've got the data protection keys is running up. The keys will not be encrypted. That's fine. And then it should take about, it took 14 seconds, I think, before to run the whole of. Am I definitely? Yeah, there we go. Right, Webpack is built. So let's run that. Boom. That's going to run my page. It's going to fire up my server. It's going to do all the stuff. It's going to set things up. So I've uncommented this. I don't need it yet because I've not uncommented it elsewhere. but that's the place I need to start. So let's save that. That's going to cause Node to shut down, which probably means this is going to break with load. That's not going to load properly. Let's just close this because I don't need it now. One last thing in memory. Request finish ended with a 404 because I told Node to restart. Node has restarted, it's rebuilding everything. It took 33 seconds. Brilliant. So we've now got access to this markdown module. Let's see what happens when I uncomment this. I think it's that one. So we register the markdown module. And let's see what happens. Like I said, it's probably this markdown module. Okay, so that's fine. So it seems to still be working. So if I go components, blog post component, this isn't as interesting until I do this. This is where it's going to break. So I'm saying put the markdown stuff in this blog post component. Oh, that loaded. Okay, so let's take out that and do that. So this in the documentation, this is how you set the markdown stuff. Oh, look at that, it's working. Oh, yeah. So I've got H1 there because it's H1, and then this is all loaded in. So if I do this, this is my test post. Hello world, this is all in markdown. Brilliant. I've got async await. So these are notes I took from a talk I went to in Seoul. Look at that, it's all working. Yeah. I wonder why it doesn't work to start with then. Let's try. So we've got that. Let's try going back to the home page. So this is the home page. Let's try. Let's have a look, see what happens. If I say give me that selector, not this selector, fast forward selector. So is that going to work? That's rebuilding my JS. Save. So I should get an about string thrown there. Is it going to work? Boom! Look at that! Yes! That's all pulled in from the server as one API request, and these are all pulled in from the server for a second API request. Oh, I love that. Ace! It's working now. Yes! So now that the actual issue going all the way back, right? I wonder whether bash will go back far enough. But the actual issue that was causing all of those errors, right? The actual issue, if I scroll up to here, was that. So that was Danstadai would have pointed that out if he'd have realised. He said in the comments he would have realised. He would have said it if he didn't realise that it wasn't. Hang on. Danstadai thought that was a special British spelling of development. It's not. It's just me being weird. Because I didn't spell it correctly and because I hadn't run this in a long time, it didn't generate the JavaScript properly, which meant it didn't have the markdown stuff, the markdown module that I chose, which means it didn't load it properly. So when it was trying to load the markdown code, if I can scroll up a little bit further, the errors that were given here, so it was saying documents not defined because that was not firing properly because it wasn't loaded properly. So we've got to the bottom of that one. It took me a while, but we got there. Ace. That's brilliant. So we fixed that. So if I really quickly go into here, blog post list, we were calling the markdown, but we weren't using it. So that's fine. We don't need that. Let's just check in here. We're not using markdown. We're not using markdown. So I can leave this one out. Ace. Brilliant. Okay. And that's going to do a refresh of this page here, but that's fine. Nav menu. Is this using it? No. And that's not using it either. Brilliant. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop it there. We've covered a little bit of spars. Let's go back to here. It needs to reload that because I haven't interacted with the page for a long time. Spars are plenty. There we go. I should have really copy pasted that. What a wally. Okay, so plan for the next one. The plan for the next live stream is going to be where are we? So this actually uses the services. I'm going to get this up on source control externally so you all can see it. But what this does is it puts a request into the API that lives in those API folders, and yeah. Well, I'm running out of energy here. Almost 3 hours. Okay, so this uses the services in the API layer in the API features directory and puts in requests to that. And those are in here in this API features, where I have my base API controller and my blog post API controller and the pages API controller. I'll show you the no bother, did it wrong there, haven't I? I've lost all sorts of stuff then. SQLite. There we go. I'll show you the database. I also have started using, because of the onion, I'll just if I rotate that a little bit. I've started using the onion architecture and all of the weird and wonderful commands required for that. If I, oh dear, just show me the code. Narrativia. If any of y'all are interested, I've named it Narrativia because I've started naming all of my projects after started naming all sorts of stuff after Discworld stuff, just because I'm a bit of a Discworld nut. Right, so if I go browse data, you can see in my blog posts table I have, let's take a look at this one. So you can see, I really like DB browser for SQLite. The body text is literally just text like that. It's raw text in markdown format. I've got an excerpt, which is just a little bit of that, a little bit of text, and I've got a header string. So the plan for this is to build up to a point where I have a blog post engine that works a little bit like WordPress. I'm looking at the WordPress source code, and I'm looking at mini blog, and I'm looking at other stuff like that to build up a blogging platform that can take a database and throw it up on screen. It is a CRUD app without the create, update, and delete. It's just a create, replace, update, delete, but without any of those really. So it's a CRUD app without the CRUD. It takes a database, it throws it up on screen. It's eventually going to be a CRUD or bread, if you like that analogy, app where it throws all that stuff up. So that's cool. I'm getting a bit excited now. There is a blog post in there that I'm actually working. I'm using this app to actually, I don't know whether you can see that, you really can't. So I'm writing a blog post for an external blog, and I'm using this tool, this application that I've put together to actually write that blog post. So that's pretty cool. I'm dog fooding as I'm developing. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave it there. The plan for the next one, hopefully I can do these more often. The plan for the next stream is talk through this, develop this platform a little bit more, talk through Google Auth, because I'll probably use Google Auth to authorize myself into the auth layer of this app, and run through some more ASP.NET Core stuff. Yeah, so that's what I'm going to do. Yes, I'm going to leave it there, I think, because I've whittled on for 3 hours. It's just about to tick over to 3 hours on my machine. So I'm going to leave it there. That's what I'll say. I have a real trouble with like ending stuff. Yeah, so for next time there will be a lot more stuff, and we won't have this 20 minutes of trying to get something running. I'm glad I got that running. Yeah, and I'll try and get this up somewhere externally so you all can have a look at it. Yes, so I'll get all the links and get all the show notes and stuff like that. Thanks for watching if you're watching live. Thanks for watching if you're watching on demand. Thanks for reading the blog post if you read the blog post. Thanks a lot. It means a lot. If I get more people watching, if there's a great demand for me to be waffling whilst I'm coding, then I'll do more. I mean, I'm going to do more anyway because I like coding in my free time, and if I can show people how to do stuff, even if no one's watching, like with the previous one I did, the building blog posts. Thank you, Dance Today. Dance Today has already said he's looking forward for the next one. With my previous video, when I live streamed it, no one was watching. I don't care if you don't watch live. It would be nice if you watch live because then I can interact with it and y'all can help me out. Yeah. So if y'all want to watch, subscribe or whatever it is in Twitch. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe in YouTube. If you like it, give it a like. If you don't give it a like. I don't really. It's not a problem. And I'll get all of the resources, get all of the notes, get all of everything, and put it all together and put it somewhere. So thanks for watching, everyone. I will catch you in the next one, whenever that is. Bye. Oh, that's not right. That's happened over there. I'll try that again. Let's try that again. That one. Bye. No, that one.